Well, and what I really...
All right, welcome to this week's episode of Building Talk. I'm Bryan Falk, and with me this week we've got Henry McClure. Henry McClure is a real estate agent in Topeka, Kansas.
I'm a broker.
He's a broker.
I'm a broker in the state of Kansas.
All right, thanks for educating me. Yes, tell me the difference between a broker and an agent.
As a broker, I could have agents that work under me and increase my liability.
Yeah.
Because basically a broker is responsible for the transactions, and so everybody that's an agent is actually working for the broker, and we all work broker to broker. Now here's what's really a little more interesting, maybe, is the difference between a realtor and a broker, because you can be both. Mm-hmm. Now I'm not a realtor today, because I'm not a member of the Topeka Board of Realtors. But I am a broker licensed in the state of Kansas and can do transactions across the state. But the ethical standards are similar. So,
Gotcha.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
I've been, real estate's really simple. All you gotta do is tell the truth.
Yeah.
Life's pretty simple. All you gotta do is tell the truth.
Okay. Yeah, great. I think I get that. Now, tell me how long you've been a real estate agent.
Okay, I got my license in Topeka.
Real estate broker, I should say.
No.
Agent and then broker.
Okay, there's a difference. So as an agent, I started off with Bill Lewis Real Estate in 1979 and worked for him for a little while. Then I moved my license over with the Simnett Brothers, which was it was a very unstructured office. And then I moved my license with Ben Blair, who was a very good agent, Coldwell Banker agent. And Ben actually was a very dear friend of mine, and a good mentor, good solid citizen. He knew my dad, the whole Topeka thing, who you related to, who do you know.
Yeah.
But, and then after that, I went to work for the Mace Rich Company, the shopping mall owner, in '83. Then, as working for the owner of a piece of real estate, since we were salaried employees, we actually didn't need to be licensed. Am I going on too long?
No.
Okay, so anyway, we didn't need to be licensed. We're working for the owners. We're on salaries. And the whole concept of the licensing is that if you're doing real estate transactions on behalf of a third party, you've got to be licensed. So, long story short, Mace Rich, anyway, so McClure Real Estate was born. I'm fast forwarding because I don't want to make it about me. I want to make it about the project. Fast forward 2000, the birth of McClure Real Estate as a broker. Mm-hmm. I've been licensed in Florida and California. Florida was actually the first state to require licensing, and that was a very tough test. And California was second.
Interesting. Okay, so you've got lots of expertise in this area, and when did this idea come to you? Who was the team? How did it come about?
Okay,
why did you do it?
Joan Wagnon.
Wait, hold on. Let's start. What is this project first? Point at the project. Talk a little bit about it, and try and describe it in a way that works for both video and just audio on this, if you don't mind.
Okay, so I got distracted with the phone here. Let me turn that off.
He'll call you back, Justin.
Try to turn this thing completely off. There we go. All right, sorry about that. Okay, question. About the project?
Yeah, how did it get conceived, and who was the teammate, so why did it happen?
The project really happened, and it's more so of the pressure building up in my house of officing. As a licensed broker, I can office in my house and do business. And with my marital situation, it just wasn't working having the office at home. She didn't really understand the commute. That when I'm in that room, I'm at work.
Yeah.
But so literally, to help my marriage, I bought a building down here, at the corner of 15th and Lane on the northeast corner, basically to get my office out of the house. And so I bought that building, And when I closed, the day I closed on it, it cash flowed, and I had, I borrowed 100% on it. I was able to borrow at that time, before Dodd-Frank, 100% of the value and still have cash flow, make the payments, and have money in my pocket every month. The day after I closed, a sign went up on the old Pryor's Pub. To me, it was the old Pryor's Pub. It was a bar called, I think, Jules or Julie's or something. And so I talked to her and entered into a contract for deed, or no, I entered into a contract that gave me the right to put a sign on it and lease it before closing. So I was able, while I'm doing my due diligence, within 30 days, I leased the building to the Schultz brothers, and they put a bar in there called Club Cosmo. And I financed that 100% and signed a lease with them that had positive cash flow. Now, what's significant about these deals is it's not so much that I was making a ton of money. If you're making a nickel and you're able to pay your mortgage and finance it 100% and move forward, you're going the right direction. I was making more than a nickel. So I bought those two projects. The day, I'm serious, the 3 days after closing of that deal, a man named David Lyles came into my office, and he owned this house here on Washburn, and it was a duplex. And he said, "Hey, I heard you're buying buildings in the area, and I want to sell mine." And so, personally, I'm not a fan of residential real estate, renting to humans. I like the commercial end of businesses, because it's a little different when a business fails, throwing a guy out, as opposed to throwing a guy out because he's just a bad human. And so I said, I'm talking to myself, which I quite often do, and I said, "Self, you know, if you buy that guy's project, you got to do this whole thing." And actually, the whole thing, the notion came into my head when I was a planning commissioner, and we were redoing the neighborhood, and I had to actually fight to put more commercial into it. I said, "Hey, look, this project needs, you know, when you're going through that neighborhood plan stuff,
Yeah.
this needs more commercial." And I thought at that time, wow, it would be fun to develop that.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of like a little Aggieville in my day when you could drink 3-2 beer. And Aggieville, the
Manhattan,
bars
Kansas,
in Manhattan,
yeah.
Kansas, right, the college town. So, Lyles, I buy the building, I finance it again, 100%, and I cashed him out of what he needed in his pocket. He carried back a second, and
So do you pay cash for these buildings when you do it, or you take a loan?
no, I'm buying, yeah, mortgages.
Yeah.
Mortgage, but I'm funding them 100%. And Community National Bank, Jerry Potts was making the loans for me, and he was a really good guy, and they made sense. And I struggled through the project, with some of the payments, and
Yeah.
and they were really nice to me. They worked with me, and I got current. And when I sold my interests out, I was only able to sell it back at one time appraised value, whatever the appraised value was, where everybody else made up to 10 times. The landowners, but me and one other people.
So you own 3 of the...
I own 3 out of 40.
40? Okay.
Yeah, there was another guy over here, Alan Raleigh, who owned, he was one of the founders of Highland Park Bank. He just sold his at 1%.
And you helped with the transactions of all the properties then?
Yes.
Yes.
So I was able to, so as far as the evolution of the deal goes, is that after I bought all 3 of them, then my 3 properties, I started searching for a partner to help me put together the whole thing. So what I do in my life when I don't know what to do, I always call Dana Anderson, who I work for at the Macerich Company. And Dana, he gave it kind of a shrug, kind of shrugged his shoulders. He goes, no, this isn't my deal. But I got a guy that I'll introduce you to, Doug Compton. And so, I think I was going to the football game, actually the next weekend, and to sit in Dana's suite. Doug Compton had a suite right next to it. I met Doug, then he introduced me to a guy named Bill Newsom and Steve Roth, and then Steve came over and met with me, and went, we walked over the project. And now this is really the key part of this thing, is it's Washburn, and the kindness and cooperation we got from Jerry Farley and at the time Tom Ellis. And so Washburn had done a study on student housing.
And for people outside of the Topeka area, Washburn is a university very close to this development.
Right.
Yes. It's
catty corner.
Yeah.
So here at the street corner of 17th and Washburn, it's just across the street. Ichabod Washburn donated the land, I think, 156 years ago. So, and actually, somehow, some way, I'm literally related to Ichabod Washburn. It sounds like bullshit, but somebody, somewhere somebody was trying to tell me that in my family that does the genealogy. That would be all too convenient, but that would be typical Topeka. Hey, yeah, I'm related to that guy. I might even call bullshit on myself. But,
so it sounds like Doug Compton was the person that was bringing in a lot of the funds on this project. Is that right? Yeah.
Not a lot of the funds.
Yeah.
The funds.
The funds. Okay.
So Doug had a team of people that he had multiple investments with, and Doug owns a construction company, and I think between Doug, Bill, and their partners, he's probably the largest owner of student housing in Lawrence and Manhattan. And then they had done student housing projects in all sorts of different college communities across the United States. So this is where the conflict came between me and Caesar, is that I come from a retail background, and I really was trying to integrate retail into this.
So who's Caesar?
Compton.
Oh, okay. Caesar.
Hail Caesar.
All right, you call Compton Caesar. Right?
Well, it's not very funny, but you've heard of the Caesar complex.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. It's not a very funny joke. But anyway, some of you out there will get it. But anyway, and I love Doug. He's a good guy. I don't want to take anything away from him. But so we turned over. We looked at the Washburn student housing study, and this project was perfect for it. And the struggle was, how do you fund the project? And the city of Topeka, Shawnee County, and 501 ultimately agreed to a TIF district. And the way a TIF district is financed is, and we're just going to use round numbers.
And a TIF district is tax increment financing.
Tax incremental financing.
Financing.
So the deal is, if you're getting $100,000 in taxes out of this project today, you're guaranteed that 100. But we're going to sell bonds to do the soft costs, everything below the ground. So the acquisition of the real estate was able to be paid by the bonds, and infrastructure in order to make the project happen. So cleaning up of all the the demo and everything that you uncovered. I mean, we found 2 gas stations that weren't on the plans as we're digging. And so the idea is that what's built back on the project, kind of from the ground up with private investment, that increase in the tax value, and let's say that it generates $400,000 in taxes, or $500,000, let's say.
Currently, or
Let's just
prior
say,
to
and
development.
I'm just giving you a math
Yeah,
equation,
yeah.
for example.
Mhm.
And I'm going to post all that data.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually, you've inspired me to, because people really need to know the numbers.
Yeah, yeah. Share your information. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Uh-huh.
because, everybody thought I was a bandit and made out like a bandit. And there are people that made a lot more money on this than me, and what I did basically was a lot of community service in the end. And Doug, I kind of thank God Doug still talks to me, because this financially has not been a winner. The TIF bonds have a shortfall, and the current appraised value from an independent appraiser was 15 million compared to what we thought would be a $25 million, well, what is a $25 million project?
So that's how much it costs to construct.
Right.
And to buy the land.
Well, no.
Yeah.
You've got, it's a $36 million project really at the end of the day, because 36.5 or, so anyway. So you've got 6 million in TIF bonds, and you got 4.5 million in public infrastructure that came out of the CIP, the Capital Improvement Plan.
Mm-hmm.
Because kind of the way Topeka works is Clark Duffy hadn't gotten any money in a while for his neighborhood, because John Akla was able to bully people and get money for his neighborhood over the years. So where the public infrastructure...
So the public infrastructure is new streets that were happening, new street lights. Was there new
Well, I'd have to go back to
water lines and things like that?
There were a lot
Yeah,
of,
electrical
we
upgrades.
have separate water meters,
Yeah.
separate utilities. Everything is broken up separately.
Mm-hmm.
So
So about 4 million in that. 6 million you said in
TIF bonds.
TIF bonds, which paid for mainly property acquisition. Is that right?
yes, property acquisition, demolition,
Yeah.
relocation of utilities,
And about $25 million in construction.
but also
Yeah.
it would pay for like relocating tenants. There are a lot of costs. There are a lot of expenses that qualify, and it's really supposed to be below the ground costs. To get you to like a level playing field.
Yeah.
Where the developer goes, oh wow, now I get it at this, with this already like all the bells and whistles provided, the accoutrements, and now I get to build on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
So TIF it incentivizes developers to go to blighted areas and put in their private investment.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned $25 million about in construction costs.
Yeah,
Okay.
and what's
And
interesting...
then they got appraised for 20 or 15? So
Yeah,
why do you think that there's a difference in appraisal and the construction value?
Well,
or cost?
it's because of we built it at the height of construction costs, and the Achilles heel to this project is really the weakness in the retail.
So is there quite a few empty spaces on the lower levels where the retail was supposed to go, or what's
Well,
happening
yes, there are empty
Yeah.
spaces, and there's some spaces that we just converted into apartments. We did in our townhome sales. What we found very troubling was nobody wanted to buy them, and we had one sale. Deborah Swank, who lived right across the street, one weekend sold to a nurse at Stormont Vale, and the nurse, like, she went to work and everybody said, "You're stupid for buying down there." And she came back with buyer's remorse, and we just tore up her contract.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, see, Topeka sometimes shoots itself in the foot.
Yeah. So those have been rented at this point then?
So yeah, so from a rental standpoint, and if you look at this as following Washburn's plan for student housing, this is a winner.
So are those mainly students in the townhomes?
Yes. Well, no, in the whole project.
In the whole project,
But it's
bustling
not
with
limited
people,
to
yeah.
students.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be filled with people. The parking lot's full all the
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
so the townhomes are all rented out.
Yeah.
The place where we're going to put some retail's rented out. You know, and the city never let us down. The city of Topeka. I love the city of Topeka. So it's like, and I hate it when people bag the city of Topeka. And sometimes, you know, there's some personalities of people, but I'm sure that I rub people the wrong way in my lifetime. But you know, it's an idea can become bigger than a bad attitude.
Yeah.
And that's really what had to happen here.
And there's some successful businesses, commercial businesses in there, like the burger stand seems to be doing
Yeah, I think
very
the burger
well,
stand
right?
does well.
They make some wonderful hamburgers, that's for sure.
Yeah. Robert Krause, who invented that, is a good guy. He's
Yeah.
a real inventive fella.
Mhm.
But
There's
so
Pizza
the
Pub
city,
too, that's good
so,
stuff.
So the perception, so what I ran into from being the leasing guy, and here was the thing I wasn't smart enough to do as an owner, was to hire like Doug Bassett, who's a commercial agent, or KS Commercial, or you know, get another commercial company advising. I mean, it was almost the way I could point my finger. Hey, don't blame me, blame them. We got to get a new broker.
Yeah.
But and when I say that, that's selfish, because what I'm grinding my teeth over time management of, you know, and hitting the wall. So personally, I'm not making any deals. I'm using all my resources to try to lease this one project. And McClure Real Estate then is not, because I need to be over here doing these deals.
So your role on it is helping acquire the properties and then filling the spaces. Were you involved with the commercial, filling those spaces, and the townhomes, as well as the student apartments?
Okay,
all three of those types?
let's
Yeah. Are you also an owner in this?
I owned 20% of the original project.
And then you sold it to?
Actually, it wasn't so much a sale, other than I got off the hook of the loan.
Because you needed to.
Because
it wasn't positive.
Yeah, I was an upside down millionaire.
Yeah.
I was worth 1.5 negative. So when we recapitalized, we had two other partners in the deal, the Chase family, who were Doug's in-laws. And because I don't want to take anything away from Doug, saying his rich father-in-law, you know, his rich father-in-law was making money off Doug as a sound investment. But having a rich father-in-law never hurt anybody.
Yeah.
So he came in and recapitalized the loan. And I mean, it's all numbers, right? So it's like, hey, look, I'm going to give you some money, I'm going to get a return on it. And, you know, that group as a company is very organized, they're meticulous. And what I liked personally about Doug was, okay, he had an electrical contractor, you know, he was an electrical contractor. And if he couldn't, you know, so he had different trades that he did as part of being a general contractor. And if his number didn't beat a current number, you're looking, you okay?
I was just looking at time.
Okay. So if his number didn't beat a competitive bid, you know, we held his feet to fire to being competitive. You know, he couldn't overcharge us.
Good deal. Okay, so the teammates, Doug Compton, his parents, you, I think Trainer Architects was the architect.
Right.
Who else was involved in this project that was major players and that helped make it happen?
Clark Duffy.
Okay, who's Clark Duffy?
city councilman.
Okay. And
This thing wouldn't happen without Clark Duffy.
is he still a city council person?
Nope,
No,
he's a
not.
professor at Washburn, or he's an adjunct professor.
Okay, what was his role?
And it wouldn't have happened without anybody sitting on city council, the county commissioners, 501 school board.
Because they all approved that.
They were
TIF.
partners. They are
Yeah.
partners in this deal.
Yeah, because of the TIF.
Yeah.
uh-huh.
I think Vic Miller, Ted Inslee, I can't remember who the third, but anybody that was in politics, we got unanimous consent. And so from that standpoint, if the body politic voted for it, the community voted for it. And I mean, overwhelmingly, the numbers will shake out for itself, because it's a good project compared to what was there. So really, people really need to think about the numbers. I think the shortfall in the TIF bonds today is $375,000. So the city's full faith and credit has to make up that, so the taxpayers are making up for that debt. So that was a risk in the project. But the private side, if we've lost $10 million in value, we're feeling the sting too. So, this is, as well as some other properties, Doug's reorganizing his portfolio, and so, there was downside for us.
Now, this probably helped Washburn University quite a bit. I've heard in the last, 10 years, 5 years, it's transformed as a university. It used to be a lot of people that would commute in, but now
what
there's a lot of
really
people that
transformed
really live there.
Washburn
Yeah.
was their on-site,
Yeah.
not this. This was a
You're talking
nice thing.
on-site housing.
Their
But this is
on-site housing is
essentially
what-
on-site, right? I mean, it's
Well,
only a block
yeah.
away.
They wanted, the plan called for, we really need to have a private, because I think right now, Jerry Farley told me that you can have like 10,500 students at Washburn and not have to add a classroom. And I think we have around 7,300. So you can add 3,000 people without adding a classroom, and you got to house them.
Yeah.
So
tell me
this changed my life.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's an impressive project. It's a huge scale that probably isn't typically done in Topeka, so it's unique in that respect. So I was always interested. I actually worked at Trainer Architects. I didn't work on this project while they were doing it. I drive home from work, come and pass it, and just kind of got excited about seeing what might happen.
Now, did you work out of the fire station or in Lawrence?
Fire station, yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool little building.
Yeah. So what are some lessons learned from this? What would you do different if you were to do it again? And how would you solve some of these problems that potentially, for instance, the shortfall in cash and such that's happened, and maybe the shortfall in the TIF district?
Be bigger. Bigger's better. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make a deal to add all this here. We should have made the TIF district bigger. That was really the key to it. Because we didn't integrate retail and the residential very good. Like, the perception around the burger stand is there's no parking. We built a parking lot, the city gave us, and the city, again, stepped up. We've got parking over here. We identified plenty of parking to make it work, but there's a perception of bad parking. And it really comes down to people being lazy. It's almost like what's going on right now with lifestyle centers over the mall. And the case in point is the pink suitcase moving out of the mall to be in a strip center because the customers don't want to walk. And so putting the retail off to a different side, because like where the quick shop is, you almost need what's there to build a new quick shop. The new quick shops take about 60,000 feet. So what I wanted to do, was I wanted to acquire all these houses to the east of that the campus shopping center owned by the Rob Company. I wanted to acquire all those houses in the TIF, and the secret to it is more retail, because retail sales tax are what drive the the more retail sales, the shortfall goes away.
Yeah.
I need my Jerry's Bike Shop guy. I love the guy. Believe it or not, he's a retailer. But I need his sales to go up. I need him to sell more bikes. The whole mentality, people don't really know what makes Henry McClure tick. But the Jerry Bike Shop of the world, those have been my clients my whole life working for the Macerich Company.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hurt that guy. But I tell you what, that guy should have taken $300,000-$400,000. He should have moved over to Brookwood. I had a space for him on the bike path. What a perfect, hey, you want to test drive the bike? Go ahead. And I could have paid for all he would have had a turnkey operations, $300,000 to $400,000 in his pocket. So we weren't ever mean to the guy or evil. And so what would I do different? Make the project have more retail in it, and you got to figure out how.
Can that be fixed in the future? Could there be another project that?
Yeah, you can just go down and make another TIF district.
Yeah. Do you think that'll ever happen, or the city might be a little scared of doing that at this point?
Well, I think Klossman's trying to do a TIF district over here on this project, which he should.
On which project are you?
Over here at 29th and Fairlawn.
Oh yeah, that one.
Right across the Shunga.
Yeah, okay.
We're here at Switzerland on the Shunga. We're live at Switzerland on the Shunga. So he ought to learn from my mistake, because he's actually putting himself, I think, in the position of the city, paying as you go TIF. But if the taxpayers are going to pay for, and as long as there's no shortfall, but a fool and his money soon parted. What the guy needs to really do is focus on a state-of-the-art retirement facility. Stick to what you know. And so what I know is retail development. Retail development is economic development. And that's what you really need to do here in Topeka, is have more retail development, because we draw 33% of our sales tax from outside Shawnee County. We're importing dollars from outside our county, which really, at the end of the day, if 33% of our income, comes here and leaves at night, fine. We don't have to have as many firemen, police chief, we just gotta have good roads.
Sure.
So, more retail and, better PR.
So if some up-and-coming real estate agent or broker decides they want to do something like this, do you have any advice for them, or any strategies on how they could go about creating a TIF district?
I would just be talking to myself, because that's me.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So what's running in your head now? What excites you? Is there any projects that you might want to share with our audience?
Well, I really want to talk about the Bennigans, the Wild Horse, where Gordman's is, Car Hop. I really want to go back to my roots in real estate, or Macerich's roots, and I want to redevelop that project. And I want to try to figure out, I want to get to know Stage. Stage is taking over for Gordman's, and I don't know if their financial strength is really any stronger than Gordman's. And I don't even really know who Stage is. When I lived in Denver, Boulder, there was a company called Fashion Bar that was like a kind of a mini Anchor that owned a company called Stage. I don't know if it's the same people. I haven't done my homework. I got stuff to do. Mm-hmm. But really, what we got to do is in Topeka, we've got to have faith, and this project worked when it wasn't Henry McClure's idea, and when it became Topeka's idea, it really worked. And we can't hold it against another guy for making a buck, you know? You shouldn't do a real estate transaction if you're not making money. It's just our business. But we got to decide whether or not we want to be capitalism, you know, if we want capitalism to rule or socialism. And by following on the retail development and creating opportunities for retailers to do business, I think it's our best form of capitalism, you know, fair competition.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I think that's a good place to end. Thanks for joining us this week, Henry. I appreciate your insight and knowledge on this. We're going to talk to you again. We're going to talk about malls on the next episode.
Okay, cool.
All right. So thanks for joining us. This is Building Talk. See you next time.